many of you know exactly how they were found. No, 1947, a Bedouin kid. We are going there. We will be at the Dead Sea Valley, down there, the caves. And he, in 1947, a 15, 16 years old Bedouin kid, took his goat to break the hunger in the midbar, and they were grazing all over the cliffs. And some of them venture into caves. Now, the Bedouin system to find if you have a few of your goats are inside the cave is to take a stone and to throw it into the cave. Now, if he hears a bah and the goat goes out, happiness, there is a goat inside. This time, listen to me. He had a cracking sound. That is not the skull of a goat. It's something different that he never heard before. The kid was brilliant enough. He went and intrigued. He climbed all the way up. He went into the cave, and then he sees a big vessel from pottery vessel. On it there is a lid in the shape of that building. You saw later on, like a little bit like a Hershey, okay? In the shape of that, that's a lid. It was cracked and his stone was near. He said, what is that? He opened the lid and then he finds the scrolls from leather. He's very happy to find leather because Bedouins, definitely he, doesn't have any shoes, and from leather, to prepare shoes. He was not stupid though. He and his parents and the tribe immediately saw that that can be something that can worth some money, and they took it to antiquity sellers in Bethlehem and in Jericho. I want to touch two things. One of them is the moment of discovery, because both of us love it. You need to understand, it is the time of the War of Independence all over. The British Empire is going to leave soon. UN, that is a bit annoying institution, but in 1947, they voted Resolution 181. In 29th of November 1947, partition of this land. This is the legal basis for our rebirth. Israel is reborn after 2,000 years. Number one scholar for paleography, ancient writing from Second Temple period in the world, Professor Sukenik, in that day, where everyone rejoices all over the world, definitely the Jews are happy, dancing on tables almost. He goes into the old city and to check what's new in the antiquity cellars. Maybe it's something interesting is there to be seen. And then they put a scroll on the table. They open the scroll, and Professor Eliezer Sukenik, in the day Israel is reborn legally over there, he opens the whole book of Isaiah from verse 1 to verse last, A to Z. All the book of Isaiah, my dear friends, and another scroll that is the scroll of the war between darkness and light. That is a scroll that we didn't even know it's there. And he knows immediately. These are 2,000 years old letters from late Second Temple period, 1st century BC, 1st century AD. That's seriously Herodian Jesus time or that time. He opens it, he tries to tremble and cry, because you need to understand. He reads it fluently. He's number one expert for the shape of the letters. And he sees it's correct to the syllable, almost without any different correction from the beginning to the last. He reads it exactly as our scribes were copying the Bible for 1,000 years. Because the oldest Bible we have, copied by scribes, is 1,000 years old. My friends, you need to remember Gutenberg, like, hey, print is so late, what? Middle of the 15th century Bible, the Gutenberg Bible, 1455, huh? Until then, nobody had books, except of the billionaires who ordered copies that were copied by scribes. So the oldest Bible that survived is 1,000 years old. Some positivists say maybe it is, after being copied so many times, maybe it's not correct. Maybe the scribes lost a whole line or pages. No. 1,000 years older. And almost all the books of the Bible, 23 out of 24 were found. Some of them, like Isaiah, complete. and it's unbelievably accurate. So this is magnificent. Last thing I want to say is what was found in 11 caves. 11 caves. Listen to me. The Bible books, that is unbelievably important. And then Apocrypha, books that were not canonized in the Bible, like the Book of Jubilees and many others. Liturgies that we didn't even know about. And number 4 category, my friends, are books of the Dead Sea Scroll guys. Maybe the IC is mentioned in Josephus. And altogether, 960 different books. 960 different books. 150,000 major fragments. And that is an unbelievable, like live Indiana Jones. Nothing is as important as that in the history of biblical research. This is huge.
Yeah. So you guys, Ron share with kind of in a very general way what happened on the same night. But a few, I don't remember even when, I wrote an article about this event. So, like, you have a beautiful voice. Yeah, seriously. Like, so I was asking Daniel, you can?
Better.
Okay, so listen carefully, guys. That's amazing. כתבתי, זה לא קראת.
No.
The amazing story of the birth of the state of Israel
what's a
and
voice,
the
huh?
Dead Sea Scrolls. A few days plus 70 years ago, one of the biggest events since 135 AD took place in the world when the Jews left Judea, almost at the same time in 2 different places. Because of the time difference, in one place the day just ended, and on the other side of the earth the day had just begun. Professor Eliezer Lipa Sukenik
You're good.
was very nervous on the same morning of November 29th, 1947, just a day before his own son, 2nd IDF Chief of Staff Yigael Yadin, advised his father not to do the dangerous short journey from the city of Jerusalem to the city of Bethlehem. Professor Sukenik knew that he owed this journey, even if he risked his life, to the hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Jews and many millions of non-Jews, only 15 minutes drive into the unknown. At the same time, on the other side of the world, a group of young Jews, after a few days without any sleep, running from place to place, from office to office, trying to find support among new friends, trying to do the impossible, having the USSR vote yes together with the USA, trying to convince whoever they could to support them. It wasn't easy on this cold night. New York was in a deep sleep, but the lights in the UN building were on all night because of the group of Jews from Palestine. They didn't let anyone go home. Professor Sukenik arrived to the meeting place. In his pocket, he had some money given to him by the Hebrew University and some of his own money. The Hebrew University knew about those scrolls, but no one really understood what was the historical and spiritual value of this incredible treasure except Professor Sukenik. Nervous moments passed very slowly as the Assyrian patriarch took out the scrolls and presented some of those scrolls to Professor Sukenik. After a few minutes, Professor Sukenik could feel how his heart almost burst out of his chest. He did his best to hide his excitement. He couldn't hide the sweat on his forehead. He just wanted to take the scrolls back to their true home after all of those 2,000 years. The smell of sweat was all over the room when Moshe Sharat said, "I think we will have a majority." As he counted the countries, his voice trembled. Who for favor and who for oppose? A small group of people stood with him, and all of them broke into tears. Just one said, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this occasion." And Moshe Sharet answered, "I just hope that none of them will betray us tomorrow." The drive back to Jerusalem was like infinity. Professor Sukenik carried 2.5 scrolls with him. He paid 35 pounds, rolled very carefully in a small bag. It was already dark in Jerusalem. The streets of Jerusalem were empty. Just some of the new Jewish flags on the buildings. He went into his office, took out the scroll of Isaiah. As he read chapter 40 of Isaiah, only then he realized what was happening. He went to his radio and turned it on, and the voice just called the name of the country, one after another. And the response was yes, no, or abstain. He took back the scroll.
Sorry. We'll be back after the short break.
He took back the scroll, and he read as he listened to his radio, live from the United Nations, vote for the partition plan for Palestine. Suddenly he could hear people running to the streets of Jerusalem, at the beginning a lot of noise, and suddenly, in the chaos and a sweet voice of a young girl silenced this chaos. More and more joined the song, from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, all the way to New York, to be a free nation in our land, the land of Zion and Jerusalem. Our hope is materialized and fulfilled. Professor Sukenik held the scroll in his hand and began to shake. Only then he understood. Today, November 29th, 1947, the day the world recognized the rights of the Jewish nation in their land, and it is also the day God delivers a message to his people. I will recognize you as well. I will bring you back to your land, the land of Israel. He left the scroll in a safe and joined the others to the distance. In the first light, the war began. Isaiah 40.
That's what Professor Sukenik, let me explain something. When Professor Sukenik came back home with the scrolls, the vote for the partition plan took place in New York City, okay, Rockefeller Center. נכון, זה היה שם?
כן, כן, למה?
Okay, so it's kind of parallel times. Because of the time difference, it's already night over here and it's the day in New York. And that's what Professor Sukenik read when listening to the vote, okay? So crazy. Listen carefully, you guys.
Isaiah 40. A voice of one calling. In the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level, the rugged places a plain. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all people will see it together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice says, cry out. And I said, what shall I cry? All peoples are like grass, and all their faithfulness is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers, and the flowers fall,
Listen carefully, you guys.
because the breath of the Lord blows on them. Surely the peoples are grass. The grass withers, and the flowers fall, but the word of our God endures forever. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on a high mountain. You who bring good news to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout. Lift it up, do not be afraid. Say to the towns of Judah, here is your God.
Amazing, how do you do this? As Ron told you, the scrolls came out of the desert. The word of the Lord came out of the desert on the same day. Professor Sukenik brought the good news back to Jerusalem. And you guys, there is no Hebrew Bibles, as Ron said, between kind of hiding the Dead Sea Scrolls in the desert and the 1,000-year-old Bible. So that we didn't have Bibles, we did, but it's all made out of parchment and it dissolved very quickly. So Jews copy their books over and over again. You know the game telephone? That it never works, okay? What are the chances to copy 1.2 million letters without doing any mistakes? No chance in the world, okay? Suddenly you have a 1,000-year-old book, and someone discovers a 2,200-year-old book, and there is nothing in between. It's identical, you guys. Almost no mistakes, okay? That can show you the power of the word. And what I love about Isaiah 40, it says, Dvar Adonai. Remember the Dvar? The word of God that fit in your body, your soul. See what happens? Ron, בוא נסביר להם איך לחזור.
קדימה, תגיד להם.
Okay, you guys, you can go in and